Hello, this is Mr. Wakely again. As you can see, I have swapped to a slightly dodgy handheld camera, and we're now going to start up our Raspberry Pi for the first time. So I've gathered together a table with all my bits and bobs. I've got my monitor and my speakers and all the rest of it. And what I'm going to do now, if I just click this in there, like that, I'm going to go through what we're going to do to plug this Raspberry Pi in. Now, it's really important that we don't plug the power in until last. Okay, so let's go through what we've got. We've got some USB ports where we're going to plug in our mouse and our keyboard. The Raspberry Pi actually does have Wi-Fi on board, but if you don't have Wi-Fi, you can plug in your Ethernet to your modem there. We're going to plug in the HDMI cable there. Now, this is a slight confession time. This is actually a Raspberry Pi Model 3, which has got a full-size HDMI port on board. Which will just plug straight into your normal HDMI cable. If you get a 4, it's got a mini one, so you'll need a mini to HDMI adapter. Okay. Next to that, you will see that we have got a plug-in USB cable. That's for the power. Okay. These are GPIO pins. We'll worry about those another time. That's for the headphones there, and that's us. So let's go ahead and start. Now, the first thing we have to do is to put in the SD card. Now, the SD card is the hard drive and the operating system all in one. You need to put it in with the little silvery bits. Well, it's going out of focus, isn't it? Little silvery bits facing up towards the board. Push it in like that. Okay, and we are now done. We can turn it over. Now, the next thing we can do is we can start plugging in the peripherals. So I'm going to undo my mouse and my keyboard next. Okay, I don't need to worry where they are for the minute, but I'm just going to plug them into any one of the USB ports. Now, actually, I could totally plug my mouse into that, but my keyboard happens to have a spare USB port actually in it, so I'm just going to plug the mouse into that instead. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my HDMI lead, which goes in there like that. That goes to the monitor. Okay, and then the last thing that I'm going to do, and I'll do it in a minute, is I'm going to plug in my power supply. I'll plug in the speakers in a minute, but I'm going to readjust the camera first so it can see the screen, and then we'll see what's going on. Okay. Right, what I have done is the not at all dodgy method of screen capture of pointing my video camera at the screen. And what you're about to see is legitimately the first time that this operating system has been started up. So, I am going to plug in my power, thus, and we will see what happens. Aha! Something is happening. Now, if you get that rainbow screen, it means that it's starting to start. You should then get an enormous screen of garbledy. The first time it ever does it, it'll resize the boot system. Don't worry about that. Okay, the file system, sorry. Now we'll get an enormous screen of garbledy text. Actually, as you use this Pi more and more, there you go, see, down there, as you use this Pi more and more, you will start to understand what the text means, all the different services it runs, all the different checks it does. Now, I'm actually doing this in real time, so you can see exactly how long it's going to take to start up. If you want to fast forward to the bit where it actually looks like it's starting up, that's absolutely fine. It is worth saying that your Raspberry Pi comes with Wi-Fi on board, so if you need to have one of your adults put in the Wi-Fi passcode for you, then they can. You can also point out to them, if necessary, that the Pi will work perfectly well without Wi-Fi. So if necessary, then you can put on Wi-Fi long enough for you to do all the installs of software you want, and then they can take it away again, and then it's still perfectly alright. Now, if you have a look, it goes straight into the Raspberry Pi desktop. Before you start using it, there are a few things to set up. So we're going to press Next to get started. Now, fine, you can choose all your preferences. Okay. The default Pi user account currently has the password Raspberry. So when you sign into a Raspberry Pi, you sign in with Pi and the password is Raspberry. It does suggest you change the password. I'm actually not going to, because I'm not going to use this particular OS very much. I'll end up doing something else. I'm only doing it to play with it. So, now, the desktop should fill the entire screen. This tick the box below if your screen has got a black border at the edges. Well, my screen does have a black border at the edges. So, this screen shows a black border around the desktop. Next. Okay. Now, we now need to find ourselves a wireless network. Now then, it's looking for them, and it's finding my one happens to be called Wakely Wi-Fi, and I am going to connect to the network. You don't absolutely have to, okay, but you can, and it allows you to load new software on and so on. Okay, so that's me connecting to my network. Now then. This is the bit that's potentially going to take ages. I'm actually going to skip it for the moment because I'm going to show you a different way of doing it. Okay, so you can update the software if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. But actually, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a different way of doing it. Now, I'm also going to restart the Pi because I want to show you how long it takes to start up in normal everyday life, which isn't as long as it takes the first time you do it. So there we go. Here's our splash screen again. And with a bit of luck, it should start slightly faster this time. Okay, there we go. There's our stuff. Okay, and then there we are. That's a bit better, isn't it? So nice and fast. Okay, and by the way, notice it's now filled the whole screen. Right, let's explore and see what we have already on this operating system. Unlike Windows, the default is to have the start button up in the top left hand. So there's the start button there. And what have we got? We've got Geely Programming Editor, we've got Thorny Python, we've got Chromium web browser, we've got various things, okay? We've got all sorts of interesting stuff, but in another episode we'll have a look at how we can install some more interesting software. For the moment, I'm going to go and open this thing up here. You can see it, you can either get to it, it's called Terminal. You can either get to it via accessories there, or I'm going to go up here and get it. Okay, and that is because one of the things I like about the Raspberry Pi is that you can do everything from the desktop, but it's much more fun to do it from the command line. Now, we'll do maybe a thing about the command line another time, but for the moment, all you need to do is this. We're going to get our update just like we said. The thing said, did we want to? But we're going to do it via the command line. So we're going to start with the command sudo, sudo. That stands for superuser-do. Okay, that means whatever I type next, the computer will do. Okay, it will attempt, even if it is wipe its own hard drive, even if it is overclock itself so it gets so hot it blows up. Okay, so you need to be careful with sudo. However, we are now going to do apt-get, which is a way in Debian of finding some packages, which is what we call software in Linux, to open or to install. And in this case, we're going to update, which means everything. We're just going to update the whole lot. So press return, okay, or enter. Show my age there. Now, if you have a look, you can see it's got 3 packages. Okay, it's got 13 meg to download. It's cracking on with it. Okay, and it's just going to get on and do that. Now then, there we are. It's reading its package lists, which means it's starting to have a look at what's in there. And there we go. We're done. Now, the other thing we can do, by the way, in the terminal, if you want to type something similar to what you typed before, just press the up key. There you go, that's the last thing I typed. Now, this one is a bit more full on. Sudo apt-get upgrade, okay, will essentially, there we go, it is going to get 291 megabytes of archives, okay? So yes, I do want to carry on with it. So this is now going to be there for a while. What I might do is I might sort of turn off the video and come back to it once it's done. What I will say is on a Raspberry Pi, you need to be careful about upgrades on a normal Linux machine, because your normal computer, if it goes down, that's a big issue. With a Raspberry Pi, if you broke something, then, which means if you break it, then, so what? You can just reinstall the operating system, go back to video 1, start again. It's not a big problem. So, I'm going to pause this now, and we'll come back to it. Upgrade and update is something I would probably do before any major changes to the operating system, just to make sure I'm doing it to the latest version. But as I say, upgrade is something you do with a little bit of care. Okay, let's come back in a bit. Right, goodness me, that took a long time. It took nearly 15 minutes, but it has been done. Now, so much for typing stuff into a terminal and have it do things. Actually, what I would like to do is I'd like to show you 3 things, and then we'll end the video. So thing number 1 is, the big test is, can you run YouTube? Can you open a YouTube video on a Raspberry Pi? Okay, now I've just clicked on Chromium, which is the open source version of the Chrome browser. Okay, it's not the fastest in the world. Bearing in mind this is only a Pi 3, it's not a Pi 4, so it's only got 1 gig of RAM, not up to 8. Okay, but it's opening all right. Now then, let's see if I can go to YouTube. Okay. And okay, it's not it's not the fastest in the world, but it is doing it. As I say, on a computer, the Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gig of RAM would be an awful lot faster. Okay. No thanks, I'm not going to sign in. Okay, I agree. Okay, and let's have a look. So I am going to find a random one to click on. I'm going to see if I can get MPs vote for national lockdown in England. That's a nice cheerful video to look at. Now let's see if we can get it to make a noise. Huh. These things never go how you expect them to. Right. No. Hold on. I think I have got my preferences. Right. Hold on. I think I've got it coming out of the HDMI port, which of course is an issue because my HDMI port doesn't have, my HDMI display doesn't have speakers. So I wonder if, please excuse the appearance around the back, I can plug in. I probably can. Pause for me to slightly redo my system.
Necessary evil. While these regulations are not in any way desirable or perfect, they are now necessary because the government's lost control of the virus.
Oops.
And we will support them.
No political comments here, ladies and gentlemen. No, none at all. Right, so that was the first thing. We can now get onto YouTube. So that's our first test. Now the second test is, can we install software that we might actually want to use? Well, the Raspberry Pi comes with 2 things. It comes with some recommended software, and it comes with its entire list of all the software that you can get. And you can install external software as well, which I'll do in another lesson. But if you go to accessories, and you go, not accessories, preferences, and you go to recommended software, it'll just bring you up a list, okay, of all the software it recommends that you have. Okay, not all of it you'll want, but this is like an app store, and it's all free. There's nothing paid for. Okay, now this is quite a small app store, because this is just the software they recommend that you have. Okay, and once again, your Raspberry Pi 4 will probably do this rather faster, but there you go. Education, games, internet, yada yada yada. Okay, if I go down, there's various things. IDE is the interactive development environment, which is, in other words, where you can learn how to write Java programming language and write it. LibreOffice is like Microsoft Office, but free. Minecraft, I think you might have come across before. Moo is a Python IDE for beginners. So I'm just going to install Minecraft, okay, just while it's doing that. Now, that's... Okay, now, just while it's doing that, I'm going to say, if you go over here again, and you go to your preferences, and you go to Add Remove Software, you basically get the same thing, but it has all of the software you can possibly find. Okay, so let me just close that. Okay. Now, let's, for example, have a look at games. Okay. It's going to look through its catalog. Now, look, here are all the games it has got. Okay, that's quite a lot of packages. Yeah, you can see we've got lots and lots and lots and lots of games. Some of them are rubbish. Some of the things like Nintendo Game Boy games that have been ported. There's all sorts of cool stuff on there. And just as much with with programming tools and different desktops, so it doesn't have to look like this. It can look like something else. Publishing systems, multimedia stuff, documentation, electronic systems. Okay, there's all sorts of stuff. We will play with some of these. Okay, when we get the chance. Now, the last thing I'm just going to do is see if Minecraft has installed. Ah, look at that. I've got no idea how to play Minecraft, by the way, but just so that you know, this does look quite Minecrafty to me. Looks like the sort of nonsense that my son does all the time. Yeah, it appears to be a thing. Okay, I appear to be able to chop great big chunks in the ground. I appear to be able to... Oh, if only I knew... Oh, there you go. I appear to be able to run around. Yada, 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 yada. Wonder if I can chop a tree down. Apparently not. I love this. It's sort of looks like the games I used to play as a child, but more rubbish. Okay, right, that's Minecraft Pi Edition, and that is me having finished this little tutorial, which is already far too long. My apologies for its 15 minutes length, but it's me rambling. Okay, right, I shall see you next time when we shall start to look at what sort of software you might like to install.